Maya Rodriguez sat in the corner of her prison cell, watching the alien guards walk past. They never looked at her for more than a second. To them, she was just another human prisoner, nothing special. The tall, gray-skinned Caltharians thought humans were stupid. They made that very clear every day. The prison ship called Void Claw was huge. Maya could feel it moving through space, going somewhere she did not know. Around her, hundreds of prisoners from different planets sat in their own cells. Most were aliens she had never seen before. Some looked like giant insects, others looked like walking rocks. A few looked almost human, but had different colored skin or extra arms. Maya kept her face blank and her eyes down when the guards came. Why, she wanted them to think she was scared and harmless. It was not hard to act that way. The guards were big and carried weapons that could kill her instantly, but Maya was not really scared. She was planning. Commander Vexith ran the security on the ship. He was taller than the other guards and had scars on his face that made him look mean. Maya had heard him talking to his soldiers about the human prisoners. Humans are weak, he said. They cannot think like we do. They are only good for simple work. This made Maya angry, but she did not show it. She had learned to hide her feelings when the war started. The war between Earth and the Hegemony Alliance had been terrible. Earth lost. Many humans died. The aliens took over Earth and made rules that humans had to follow. Maya was captured during one of the last battles. The aliens thought Maya was just a person who fixed machines. That is what her fake papers said. They did not know she was really Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Corps. She had been one of the best engineers in the human military. Her job was to fix things that other people said could not be fixed. She was also very good at breaking things that seemed impossible to break. During the days on the prison ship, Maya watched everything. She learned when the guards changed shifts. She saw how they opened and closed the cell doors. She listened to them talk in their alien language. Most humans could not understand alien languages, but Maya had studied them during the war. She pretended not to understand when they talked about where they were going. The guards often talked about their destination. They called it Xerion Prime. Maya knew this was a prison planet where the hegemony sent people they wanted to disappear, forever. But she also heard them mention something else, something called Project Harvest. Every day the guards brought food to the prisoners. The food was terrible, but Maya ate it anyway. She needed to stay strong. During these feeding times, she tried to see into other parts of the ship. The guards usually kept the doors open just long enough for her to catch quick looks. One day, something happened that changed everything. A guard was moving prisoners from one section to another. As the group walked past Maya's cell, she saw something that made her heart beat fast. In the group of prisoners, she saw Jake Murphy. Jake had been her second in command during the war. He was supposed to be dead. The official report said he died in the battle where Maya was captured. But there he was, walking past her cell in prisoner clothes. He looked thin and tired, but he was alive. Maya forced herself to look away quickly. She could not let the guards see her reaction, but her mind was racing. If Jake was alive, maybe other members of her unit were alive too. The aliens might have captured more humans than they admitted. That night, Maya lay on her hard bed and thought about what this meant. Why would the aliens lie about capturing human soldiers? Why keep them alive if they thought humans were so worthless? There had to be a reason. The next day, Maya paid more attention to the conversations between guards. She heard them talking about the other human prisoners. They mentioned something about special subjects and biological research. The words made Maya feel cold inside. She started to understand that the prison ship was not just taking them to a regular prison. The aliens had something else planned. Something that involved using human prisoners for experiments. Maya had heard rumors during the war about alien scientists who wanted to study human biology. She had hoped those rumors were not true. As the days passed, Maya learned more about the ship. She figured out which sections held which types of prisoners. She memorized the guard schedules. She studied the technology she could see through her cell bars. Most importantly, she started to plan. Maya knew she could not escape alone. She would need help from other prisoners, but first she had to find a way to contact them without the guards noticing. The cells were designed to keep prisoners separate and unable to talk to each other. But Maya was an engineer. She understood how systems worked. She noticed that the air vents in the cells were connected. Sound could travel through them if someone knew how to use them. Maya started to experiment with tapping on the walls near the vents. She used a simple code that any military person would recognize. At first, nothing happened. Then, one night, she heard tapping back. Someone in another cell was answering her. The taps were in the same code she had used. Another human soldier was alive on this ship. Maya felt hope for the first time since her capture. She was not alone. Other humans were fighting back, even in this terrible place. She began to tap out a message, letter by letter. It was slow work, but she managed to spell out her name and rank. The response came back quickly. Jake Murphy, Lieutenant, Earth Defense Corps. Maya almost cried when she read those tapped letters. Her old friend was alive and trying to communicate with her. She tapped back. Maya Rodriguez, Captain. Thought you were dead. Jake's response was simple. Same here. What do you know about this place? Maya told him everything she had learned about the ship and Project Harvest. Jake shared information about other human prisoners he had seen. Together they started to build a picture of what the aliens were really planning. It was worse than Maya had feared. The aliens were not just taking them to a prison planet. They were taking them to a research facility where human prisoners would be used as test subjects. The experiments were designed to create biological weapons that could kill all humans on Earth. The aliens thought humans were too stupid to understand their plans. They talked openly about Project Harvest in front of human prisoners, thinking the humans could not understand their language. They were wrong about that, and they were wrong about humans being stupid. Maya realized that she and the other prisoners might be the only ones who knew about this terrible plan. They had to escape. They had to warn Earth before it was too late. But escaping from an alien prison ship in deep space seemed impossible. Maya Rodriguez had spent her life making impossible things possible. She was not going to stop now. Maya began her work carefully. Every night when the ship was quieter, she tapped messages through the air vents to Jake. She had to be patient. If the guards caught them communicating, they would both be moved to punishment cells, or worse. Through Jake, Maya learned about other human prisoners on the ship. There was a woman named Zara Okafor who had been captured on a planet far from Earth. The aliens thought she was just someone who studied plants. They did not know that Zara was actually a scientist who worked on making humans able to live on alien worlds. Her research could help human soldiers fight in places where they could not normally survive. There was also Carlos Mendez. He had been a communications expert in the human military. The aliens thought he was just a radio operator who sent simple messages. They did not understand that Carlos could break into almost any computer system if he had enough time. During the war, he had hacked alien communication networks and learned many of their secrets. Maya also learned about Lisa Park, a doctor who had worked with the military. The aliens saw her as a simple medical worker who could help treat sick prisoners. They did not know that Lisa had studied alien biology and knew exactly where to hurt different alien species if she needed to. She also had a perfect memory and could remember everything she saw or heard. Jake told Maya something else that surprised her. The human prisoners were not the only ones being underestimated by the Caltharians. There were other alien species on the ship that the guards treated as harmless, even though they were actually very dangerous. Maya decided she needed to contact these other species. If the Caltharians were wrong about humans, they might be wrong about other aliens too. Working together would give them a better chance of escape. The first non-human prisoner Maya contacted was named Keth. Keth belonged to a species called Thurians. They looked somewhat like humans but had blue skin and large eyes. The Caltharian guards thought Thurians were too emotional to be smart. They treated Keth like a pet that could not control its feelings. But Maya learned that Thurians were actually very intelligent. Their emotions helped them understand other people better than any other species. Keth could tell when someone was lying just by looking at their face. Keth could also sense when guards were tired, angry, or distracted. This information was very useful for planning. Maya also made contact with a prisoner named Niz. Niz was a member of the Vexani, a species that looked like walking crystals. The Caltharians thought the Vexani were basically smart rocks with no real thoughts. They were completely wrong. Niz could actually connect with electronic systems using electrical fields from their crystal body. When Niz touched certain metal surfaces in their cell, they could feel the electrical current flowing through the ship's computers. The guards had no idea that Niz was slowly learning how all the ship's systems worked. Through her growing network of contacts, Maya began to understand how badly the Caltharians misunderstood the species they had conquered. The aliens were so sure of their own superiority that they only saw what they expected to see. They looked at humans and saw primitive creatures. They looked at Thurians and saw emotional weaknesses. They looked at Vexani and saw simple mineral life. This arrogance was their weakness. Maya realized that every species on the ship had abilities that the Caltharians did not know about. If they could work together, they might have a real chance. Maya's plan started small. She asked Carlos to try to learn more about the ship's communication systems. Carlos began asking guards about the broken communication panel in his cell. He pretended to be frustrated that he could not send messages to his family. The guards thought this was funny. They did not realize that Carlos was actually studying how their communication technology worked. Zara started complaining loudly about the food. She said the nutrition was wrong for human biology, and that she needed to check the air quality in her cell. She made so much noise about these scientific concerns that the guards began taking her to different parts of the ship to test things. Zara used these trips to study the ship's layout and systems. Lisa began offering to help guards who got hurt during their work. She was very good at treating injuries, and the guards started to trust her. They even let her visit the medical base sometimes to get supplies. Lisa used these visits to learn about the ship's power systems, which were connected to the medical equipment. Meanwhile, Jake gathered information from other human prisoners. He learned that there were at least 20 humans on the ship, all listed as dead in official records. The aliens were definitely planning something secret with these prisoners. Keth helped by watching the guards and telling the others when it was safe to communicate. Their emotional sensitivity made them an excellent lookout. Keth could sense when a guard was suspicious or when someone was about to make a surprise inspection. Niz provided crucial technical information. Through their connection to the ship's electrical systems, they mapped out the power grid and computer networks. Niz discovered that the ship was older than it looked, and some of its systems had vulnerabilities that could be exploited. As the weeks passed, Maya's network grew stronger. They developed better ways to communicate and share information. Maya used her engineering knowledge to figure out how the ship's critical systems worked. She identified 3 key areas they would need to control: the power distribution center, the environmental controls, and the navigation computer. The power distribution center controlled electricity for the entire ship. If they could take control there, they could shut down security systems and cell doors. The environmental controls managed air, water, and temperature throughout the ship. Control of that system would let them cause chaos and confusion. The navigation computer determined where the ship was going. If they could change the ship's course, they might be able to reach a place where they could escape or send a warning to Earth. But Maya knew they needed more than just a plan to take over these systems. They needed to know exactly where the ship was going and when it would arrive. They also needed to understand what Project Harvest really involved. Carlos provided the breakthrough they needed. During one of his repair sessions with the communication equipment, he managed to access a data file. What he found was terrifying. Project Harvest was not just about experimenting on human prisoners. The aliens were planning to use human genetic material to create biological weapons. These weapons would be designed to kill only humans, leaving other species unharmed. The hegemony planned to release these weapons on Earth, killing every human on the planet. The research facility where this work was being done was called Station Omega. It was hidden in a star system far from any inhabited worlds. The prison ship was taking them directly there. Once they arrived, the human prisoners would be used as test subjects until the weapons were perfected. Maya felt sick when she learned this information, but she also felt more determined than ever. The aliens thought humans were too primitive to understand their plan or do anything about it. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Maya began planning their escape in earnest. She knew they would only get one chance. If they failed, everyone would die, and Earth would never learn about the biological weapons. But if they succeeded, they could save not just themselves, but their entire species. The plan would be dangerous and complex. It would require perfect timing and cooperation between species that had never worked together before. Most importantly, it would require the aliens to continue underestimating them until the very last moment. Maya looked around at her network of allies, humans, Thurians, and Vexani working together against their captors. The Caltharians had no idea what was coming for them. Maya spent days studying everything she could see about the ship's design. The Caltharians built their ships with one main idea. Everything important should be controlled from one central location. This made it easy for them to monitor and command their vessels, but Maya saw it differently. If her team could take control of the central systems, they could control the entire ship. The ship had 3 critical points that Maya identified. The power distribution hub was deep in the lower levels of the ship. All electricity flowed through this area. The environmental controls were near the prisoner sections, managing air and water for everyone on board. The navigation computer was on the bridge, determining where the ship traveled through space. Maya knew that attacking these locations with force would never work. The guards were too strong and too well armed. Instead, they would have to use the aliens' prejudices against them. The Caltharians expected certain behaviors from each species. Maya's plan was to give them exactly what they expected to see, while secretly working toward their real goal. Zara was the first to begin her part of the plan. She started complaining even louder about the food and air quality. She told the guards that human biology was very delicate and that the ship's environment was slowly poisoning the human prisoners. She used scientific words and acted very worried about proper nutritional balance and atmospheric compatibility. The guards found Zara annoying, but they also believed that humans were weak and needed special care to stay alive for the experiments. They did not want their test subjects to die before reaching Station Omega, so they started taking Zara to the environmental control section to test the air and adjust the food systems. This was exactly what Maya had hoped for. Every time Zara visited the environmental controls, she memorized more about how the systems worked. She also began making tiny changes to the computer programs. Nothing that would cause immediate problems, but small adjustments that would create big failures. Later, when activated, Lisa began her own performance. She offered medical help to any guard who had small injuries or felt sick. Many of the Caltharian guards suffered from minor health problems during their long tours of duty. Lisa was genuinely helpful, using her knowledge of alien biology to treat their symptoms. The guards started to trust Lisa and see her as harmless. They began bringing her to the medical bay to help with treatments. Lisa was always careful to seem grateful and a little scared, exactly what the guards expected from a human prisoner. But while she worked, she studied the medical equipment and learned about the power systems that connected to it. Carlos played his part by acting frustrated with the broken communication equipment in his cell. He constantly asked guards to help him fix small problems. He pretended to be a simple human who just wanted to send messages to his family back on Earth. The guards thought this was pathetic, but they sometimes helped him just to stop his complaining. Each time a guard worked on the communication system, Carlos watched everything they did. He learned how to access different parts of the ship's computer network. More importantly, he began installing small programs that could be activated later. These programs were hidden so well that the aliens' security systems never detected them. Jake worked on gathering intelligence from other human prisoners. He used the communication network Maya had established to learn about guard schedules, ship routines, and any other useful information. Jake also helped coordinate timing between the different parts of Maya's plan. Keth proved invaluable as a lookout and early warning system. Their emotional sensitivity allowed them to detect when guards were suspicious, tired, or distracted. Keth would signal the others through subtle changes in their behavior when it was safe to take risks or when they needed to be more careful. Niz continued mapping the ship's electrical systems through their crystal body's connection to metal surfaces. They discovered something important. The ship was much older than it appeared on the surface. Some of the electrical systems had been updated over the years, but older components remained. These older parts had security vulnerabilities that newer systems did not have. As the weeks passed, Maya's team made steady progress. They gathered detailed information about the ship's layout, systems, and routines. They identified weak points in the security and figured out how to exploit them. Most importantly, they remained completely invisible to the guards, who continued to see only what they expected to see. Maya knew they were getting close to their destination. The guards were talking more about Station Omega and preparing for the transfer of prisoners. She also overheard conversations about the biological weapons research. The aliens were excited about their project and confident that nothing could stop them. But Maya had one more piece of information to gather. She needed to know exactly when they would arrive at Station Omega and what the transfer process would involve. This information would determine the timing of their escape attempt. Carlos provided the answer when he managed to access the ship's navigation logs during one of his repair sessions. The ship would arrive at Station Omega in 5 days. The transfer process would take several hours, during which many systems would be temporarily shut down for safety reasons. Maya realized this transfer period would be their best opportunity. The ship's defenses would be reduced, and the guards would be focused on moving prisoners rather than watching for escape attempts. But they would need to act before the transfer was complete, or they would find themselves trapped on an even more secure research station. Maya finalized her plan and shared it with the others through their secret communication network. The plan was complex and dangerous, requiring precise timing and perfect coordination. Each person had a specific role to play, and everyone had to execute their part flawlessly for the plan to succeed. The escape would begin with a simulated emergency. Maya would use her knowledge of human biology to fake symptoms of a dangerous alien disease. This would create panic among the guards and force them to take her to the medical bay for emergency treatment. Lisa would be there to help with the medical crisis, giving both of them access to critical systems. While the guards were distracted by Maya's fake illness, Zara would activate the changes she had made to the environmental control systems. This would cause a cascade of apparently unrelated system failures throughout the ship. At the same time, Carlos would trigger the programs he had hidden in the communication network. Niz would use their connection to the electrical systems to cause additional failures in the older parts of the ship's power grid. The combined effect would make it appear that the ship was experiencing a catastrophic technical breakdown. Jake and Keth would help coordinate the timing and watch for any guards who might discover what was really happening. Once the ship was in chaos, the team would move to take control of the 3 critical systems Maya had identified. But Maya knew that even if everything went perfectly, they still faced a huge problem. They were in deep space, far from any friendly territory. Even if they captured the ship, they would need somewhere to go and some way to warn Earth about Project Harvest. Maya had thought about this problem for a long time. She remembered from her military training that there were communication relay stations scattered throughout this region of space. These automated stations collected and forwarded messages between different parts of the galaxy. If they could reach one of these stations, they could send a warning to Earth about the biological weapons. But the nearest relay station was still very far away. The ship would need to change course significantly to reach it, and they would have to fight off any pursuit from other hegemony vessels. Maya was not sure they could manage all of this, but she knew they had to try. The alternative was unthinkable. If they did nothing, the biological weapons would be created and used against Earth. Every human on their home planet would die. And the galaxy would never know that humans had tried to fight back. Maya looked at her team of unlikely allies, humans, Thurians, and Vexani, working together against impossible odds. The Caltharians had underestimated all of them, and now they were about to pay the price for their arrogance. In 3 days, they would put their plan into action. Maya hoped it would be enough. Maya took a deep breath and began the most dangerous performance of her life. She had studied Caltharian medical records during her time as a prisoner, learning about diseases that terrified them. Now she used her knowledge of human biology to fake the symptoms of Xerion plague, a deadly infection that could supposedly jump between species. She started by raising her body temperature using breathing techniques she had learned in military training. Then she used pressure points to create rashes on her skin that looked like the early signs of the plague. Finally, she began acting confused and disoriented, symptoms that would alarm any Caltharian doctor. When the guards came for their routine check, Maya was lying on her cell floor, apparently unconscious with a high fever and strange marks on her skin. The guard who saw her immediately called for medical assistance. Within minutes, alarms were ringing throughout the ship. Commander Vex arrived at Maya's cell with a full medical team. He looked at her symptoms and his face showed real fear. Xerion plague had killed millions of Caltharians in past outbreaks. If it was spreading among the prisoners, it could kill everyone on the ship. Get her to isolation immediately, Vexith ordered. Full contamination protocols. I want every human prisoner tested for signs of infection. Maya was carried to the medical bay on a stretcher, exactly as she had planned. Lisa was already there, having been brought in earlier to help with routine medical checks on human prisoners. When Maya arrived, Lisa immediately took charge of the situation, acting like a concerned doctor trying to help her patient. I need to run blood tests immediately, Lisa told the Caltharian medical staff. This could be a new strain of the plague. We have to act fast, or it will spread to every prisoner on the ship. While the aliens focused on the medical emergency, Lisa and Maya worked together to access the ship's power systems through the medical bay's computers. Maya's medical crisis gave them the perfect cover to connect to critical systems without raising suspicion. Maya pretended to drift in and out of consciousness while actually helping Lisa navigate the computer networks. They found the power, distribution controls, and prepared to activate the virus that Carlos had designed. But they had to wait for the right moment, when the other parts of the plan were ready to begin. In the environmental control section, Zara was putting her part of the plan into action. She had convinced the guards to bring her there again to test air quality after reports of Maya's illness. Zara acted very worried that contaminated air might be spreading the plague throughout the ship. The atmospheric recycling system could be carrying infected particles, Zara told the guards. I need to check the filtration systems and make adjustments to prevent further contamination. The guards, now terrified of the plague spreading, gave Zara access to systems she had never been allowed to touch before. She quickly began activating the small changes she had made to the environmental controls over the past weeks. These changes would cause the ship's life support systems to malfunction in precisely calculated ways. Carlos was ready in his cell, his hands on the communication equipment that the guards had brought him to fix. He had convinced them that human communication devices might be needed to contact Earth about plague treatment protocols. In reality, Carlos was preparing to activate the hidden programs he had installed throughout the ship's computer network. Nizzy lay still in their cell, appearing to be in one of their normal mineral rest periods. But actually, Niz was connected to the ship's electrical grid through their crystal body, ready to cause carefully planned failures in the older power systems. The guards had no idea that what they thought was simple mineral behavior was actually sophisticated technical sabotage. Jake and Keth were positioned to watch for guards and coordinate timing between the different teams. Keth's emotional sensitivity would tell them exactly when each part of the plan needed to begin. Jake would relay signals through their secret communication network. The moment came when Keth sensed that the guards were most distracted by the medical emergency. Keth gave the signal, and everything began happening at once. Lisa activated the virus in the power systems, causing the first wave of electrical failures. At the same time, Zara triggered the environmental control problems she had programmed. Carlos released his hidden software throughout the communication network. Niz sent electrical surges through the older power grid components. To the Caltharian crew, it appeared that their ship was experiencing a catastrophic system breakdown. Power failures cascaded through multiple decks. Life support systems began showing error messages. Communication equipment started malfunctioning. Emergency lights flickered on and off throughout the vessel. Commander Vexith rushed from the medical bay to the bridge, trying to understand what was happening to his ship. His engineering staff reported failures in dozens of different systems, all apparently unrelated. The ship's computer systems were struggling to manage the crisis. "Sir, we're experiencing multiple system failures," reported the chief engineer. "Power grid instability, environmental control errors, communication breakdowns. I've never seen anything like this." "Are these failures related to the plague outbreak?" Vexith demanded. "I don't see how they could be, sir. These are technical problems, not biological ones." But Vexith was suspicious. Too many things were going wrong at the same time. He had been a ship commander for many years, and he had learned to trust his instincts when something felt wrong. As the chaos continued, Maya's team moved to the next phase of their plan. Maya recovered enough from her fake illness to move around the medical bay. Lisa helped her access the main power distribution controls through the medical systems. They began shutting down security systems and unlocking prisoner cells throughout the ship. Zara used the confusion to move from environmental controls toward the navigation computer. She had memorized the ship's layout during her many trips to different sections. Guards were too busy dealing with system failures to pay attention to one human prisoner walking through the corridors. Carlos left his cell when the door locks failed and headed for the main communications center. He needed to access the ship's central computers to take complete control of the vessel's systems. Jake and other human prisoners also escaped from their cells and began moving towards strategic locations. But Commander Vexth was not fooled for long. As he watched the pattern of failures and prisoner movements, he realized what was really happening. These were not random system breakdowns. This was a coordinated escape attempt. "Security alert," Vexth announced over the ship's communication system. "All prisoners are to be returned to their cells immediately. Use of deadly force is authorized." Guards throughout the ship began responding to the security alert, but they were hampered by the ongoing system failures. Many of their weapons and communication devices were not working properly due to the technical sabotage. Maya's team reached the bridge just as Vexith was organizing his response. They had control of power systems and environmental controls, but they still needed to access the navigation computer to change the ship's course. The bridge was heavily defended, and the remaining functional security systems were concentrated there. But as Maya and her allies prepared to storm the bridge, Vexth made a decision that changed everything. Rather than risk losing his ship to escaped prisoners, he activated the ship's self-destruct protocol. "If I cannot deliver these prisoners to Station Omega, then no one will," Vexth announced to his crew. "I will not allow them to escape and warn their allies about Project Harvest." Red warning lights began flashing throughout the ship. A mechanical voice announced, "Self-destruct sequence initiated. Vessel destruction in 20 minutes. Maya felt her heart sink. They had come so close to success, only to have Vexith choose to destroy the ship rather than lose control of it. Even if they could overpower the remaining guards and take the bridge, they would still die when the ship exploded. But Maya was not ready to give up. She was an engineer, and engineers solved problems that seemed impossible. She began calculating their options as the countdown continued. The ship carried emergency escape pods, but most had been damaged during the power failures. However, Maya's technical assessment showed that one pod might still be functional. It had enough range to reach a nearby communication relay station, but only if someone stayed behind to manually pilot the ship away from the relay to prevent the explosion from destroying it. Maya realized what she had to do. Someone would have to sacrifice themselves to save the others and ensure that the warning about Project Harvest reached Earth. As the ship's captain and the engineer who knew the systems best, that someone had to be her. Maya looked at her team of allies who had trusted her with their lives, humans who had followed her plan despite impossible odds, aliens who had chosen to work with humans despite centuries of prejudice. They deserved a chance to survive and complete their mission. Maya began preparing for the final phase of their escape, knowing that she would not be part of it. Maya looked at the countdown timer showing 18 minutes until the ship would explode. She had to work fast. The escape pod she had identified was 3 decks away from the bridge, and it would take time to prepare it for launch. More importantly, she needed to gather all the intelligence her team had collected about Project Harvest and make sure it reached Earth. "Jake, get everyone to Escape Pod 7, Maya ordered through their communication system. "Zara, download everything you can about the biological weapons research. Carlos, copy all the data about hegemony communication protocols and military capabilities. Lisa, gather medical information about alien weaknesses." "What about you?" Jake asked, already knowing the answer but hoping he was wrong. "Someone has to stay behind to pilot the ship away from the relay station," Maya replied. "The explosion will destroy the communication relay if we're too close when the ship blows up. You need that relay to send the warning to Earth." Jake started to argue, but Maya cut him off. "That's an order, Lieutenant. Get our people to safety and complete the mission." Maya's team moved quickly through the damaged ship. Most of the Caltharian guards were either dead from the system failures or too busy trying to restore control to stop a small group of prisoners from reaching the escape pod bay. Commander Vexith and his remaining crew were barricaded on the bridge, trying to manually override the self-destruct sequence. But Maya's sabotage had made their systems too unstable to control properly. While the others prepared the escape pod, Maya made her way to the ship's main engineering section. She needed to manually override the navigation controls and take direct command of the vessel's movement. This would allow her to steer the ship away from the communication relay after the pod launched. The engineering section was mostly empty. The Caltharian engineers had fled when the power systems started exploding. Maya found the manual controls and began connecting them to the ship's steering systems. It was dangerous work with electricity arcing around her, but her training had prepared her for exactly this kind of emergency repair. As she worked, Maya thought about everything that had led to this moment. The war that Earth had lost, her capture and the discovery of Project Harvest, the alliance she had built with prisoners from different species, the plan that had almost succeeded completely. "Maya, the pod is ready." Jake's voice came through the communication system. "We have all the data." Zara collected detailed information about the biological weapons. Carlos has the communication protocols. Lisa has intelligence about alien military capabilities. Kath and Niz are with us too. "Good," Maya replied, as she finished her work on the manual controls. "Launch as soon as you're clear of the ship. Head directly for the communication relay. Send everything to Earth immediately." Maya began piloting the massive prison ship using the manual controls she had jury-rigged. It was like trying to steer a mountain, but she managed to change the ship's course slightly. This would ensure that when the ship exploded, the blast would not damage the communication relay station. The escape pod launched just as Caltharian guards finally broke into the engineering section. Maya sealed the doors behind her and continued, working at the controls. She had maybe 8 minutes left before the explosion. "Maya, we're away from the ship," Jake reported. "But there's still time for you to reach another escape pod." Maya checked her calculations. Even if she ran immediately, she would not have enough time to reach a functional escape pod and get far enough away to survive the explosion. More importantly, if she stopped controlling the ship's movement, it would drift back toward the communication relay. "Negative," Maya replied. "I need to keep steering until the end. Make sure you send that warning to Earth." Through the ship's sensors, Maya watched the escape pod moving toward the communication relay station. They would reach it in just a few minutes, well before the ship exploded. She felt satisfied knowing that her sacrifice would not be wasted. Commander Vexith and his remaining guards finally broke through the sealed doors into the engineering section. They found Maya at the manual controls, calmly steering their ship toward its destruction. "Human!" Vexith shouted. "You have doomed us all." Maya looked at the alien commander who had thought humans were too stupid to threaten his ship. "You doomed yourselves when you underestimated us," she replied. Vexith raised his weapon, but Maya ignored him. There were only 3 minutes left, and she needed to make a final course correction to ensure the communication relay would be safe. Even if Vexith shot her now, the ship would explode before he could change its direction. Maya opened a communication channel to the escape pod. This would be her last chance to speak with her team. "Jake, this is Maya. Do you copy?" "We copy, Captain. We're at the relay station now, sending all data to Earth." "Good. Tell them what we learned about Project Harvest. Tell them about the biological weapons. And tell them that the aliens underestimated every species they conquered, not just humans. There are potential allies throughout the galaxy if Earth knows how to find them. Maya paused, watching the countdown timer reach 1 minute. Tell Earth that humanity is not alone. We proved that different species can work together against oppression. Humans, Thurians, Vexani, we all fought together. That alliance can grow if Earth is smart about it. Maya, Jake's voice was thick with emotion. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Lieutenant. Complete the mission. Make sure Earth survives. Maya closed the communication channel and made her final course adjustment. The ship was now pointed away from the communication relay and heading toward empty space. When it exploded, the blast would harm no one except those still aboard. Maya looked around the engineering section at the Caltharian guards who had stopped trying to fight her. They knew they were all going to die and there was nothing they could do about it. Commander Vexith stood with his weapon lowered, staring at the human who had outsmarted him. You were wrong about us, Maya told him. Humans are not primitive. We're not stupid. We're not weak. We're just different from you. That difference was your weakness and our strength. The countdown reached 10 seconds. Maya felt strangely calm. She had completed her mission. Earth would be warned about Project Harvest. The biological weapons program would be stopped. Her friends would survive to fight another day. At 0, the prison ship Voidclaw exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from the communication relay station. Maya Rodriguez died instantly, but her sacrifice ensured that the warning about Project Harvest reached Earth within hours. 6 months later, Earth Defense Corps ships intercepted and destroyed Station Omega before the biological weapons could be completed. The intelligence that Maya died to provide gave humanity exactly what it needed to prepare for the hegemony's planned genocide. But Maya's legacy went beyond saving Earth. The other species she had worked with, Thurians and Vexani, began their own rebellions against the hegemony. They had learned from Maya that different species could work together effectively. Keth became a leader among the Thurians, using their emotional abilities to coordinate resistance across multiple star systems. Niz helped establish a network of Vexani rebels who could interfere with hegemony communications and computer systems. Jake Murphy was promoted to colonel and formed a new military unit called Maya's Ghosts. This unit specialized in deep infiltration and asymmetric warfare against technologically superior opponents. Every mission began with the unit motto, "They underestimated her. Don't let them underestimate you." Zara's biological research helped humanity adapt to alien environments, allowing human colonists to establish bases on worlds previously thought uninhabitable. Carlos became Earth's chief expert on alien communication systems, enabling humanity to coordinate with other rebel species across the galaxy. Lisa used her knowledge of alien biology to train human soldiers in fighting techniques effective against different enemy species. The war between humanity and the hegemony continued, but it was no longer a hopeless fight. Maya had proven that the aliens' greatest weakness was their arrogance. They consistently underestimated the species they conquered, seeing only what confirmed their prejudices. Humanity learned from Maya's example. They never again underestimated any species they encountered, whether as enemies or potential allies. They looked for the hidden strengths that others missed, just as Maya had done aboard the prison ship. On Earth, a memorial to Maya Rodriguez was built at the engineering college where she had studied before joining the military. The inscription read simply, "Captain Maya Rodriguez, engineer, soldier, human." She saw what others missed and built bridges others thought impossible. Students at the college would often stop at the memorial and read about Maya's story. They learned about the human woman who had been underestimated by an entire alien empire and who had used that underestimation to save her species. The hegemony still existed, but it was no longer an unstoppable force. Other species throughout the galaxy had learned that cooperation could defeat oppression. They had learned that strength came not from domination, but from understanding and respecting the unique abilities of different peoples. And it all began with one human woman who refused to accept that she was as helpless as her captors believed. Maya Rodriguez had been underestimated because,